Yo, guys, welcome back to another episode of TalkFlow. This is episode 31. And firstly, before we get into the episode, I just want to say that we do apologize. We missed last week's episode. Reason being is because my Wi-Fi wasn't the best because I moved house, again. But yeah, I think this episode is going to be about the Webflow community. It's a bit controversial. We're just going to be expressing our own opinions and whatnot, but
Yeah,
we're mostly going to be talking about the Webflow awards that Webflow recently came out with.
yeah,
So yeah, saying that, we're just going to jump into the disclaimer. So my part of the disclaimer is pretty much that this is just our opinion.
yeah.
Um, we're not
We're
saying
not
these are,
say we're not.
set in stone facts.
Yeah,
This is just
yeah,
what
and
from
we're
what
not
we
blaming.
experience and what we see and whatnot. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
If
and we're
we
not
don't
like
want anyone to take this controversially.
yeah, and we're also like not blaming anyone, like or accuse anyone of doing certain things or anything like that. I'm
Mm,
assuming all of it is just maybe they're not used to it or it's not something a lot of people think of. But this is something that personally has been bothering me for recently quite a while, and I always wanted to talk
mm,
about it, but I don't want to say anything controversial or get myself cancelled. But I think finally, like I think a lot of people are sort of feeling the same way, and maybe just expressing our opinion might open up, some situation where maybe this one things people usually thought of before. But disclaimer, huge disclaimer, it's just our opinion, just what we feel, alongside with some solutions on how to fix it.
mhm. Yeah, I think the reason that we're talking about this is pretty much, I think I mentioned this, like Webflow Awards came out quite recently, and we've
Yeah,
seen, the response online and whatnot.
it's
And
good
me and
stuff,
Vim were
man.
kind of talking about this for quite a while, you know.
Yeah, this
But I think
whole
when the Webflow Awards came out, it kind of made it,
very
almost like
obvious. Yeah,
solidified our opinion for us.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like
So I think
for me, at least,
to
like when you see the awards, there's a lot of people that
no,
when
no, no, wait,
people the
wait.
people that get
I think
nominated or
I think we still didn't tell anyone what the issue is. I think the issue that
okay,
we have is that we feel like it's not diverse enough, or not just diversity, but
uh-huh.
it doesn't represent a lot of people outside of the US.
It
And
doesn't represent Webflow as a whole.
as a whole, yeah,
It's
it
a
feels
very specific
very,
part of Webflow.
yeah, and it's like anything that revolves around that is always stuff from the US. And I understand, they are based in the US, the economy revolves around the US. But I'm fairly certain there's a lot more outside the US, which I think is just not recognized by not even Webflow, not the community, not by anyone. And it's like
Mhm.
almost the whole rest of the part of the world who's, I'm sure they contribute decent enough, but they don't get recognized. Right. And I think we're
Mhm.
going to be tearing apart some of these issues and giving you some examples
Yeah.
that nobody ever talks about. Right. And these are like
Mhm.
stuff that I have noticed quite recently. Because we are from Europe, and I started seeing this a lot more as we start taking the journey in Webflow quite. It's been 2.5 years for both of us, but I just yeah, it's just the lack of representation outside of the US.
Yeah, I think where it started, and I think Vim, you will agree, is when Webflow Showcase switched to Made in Webflow, and
Yeah,
the showcase kind of lost what it was meant to be from the start, which was recognizing, rising talents, rising
yeah,
stars, right? And
yeah.
you know, but then I
Because I
think they switched
remember
up the whole
from
algorithm and like, you know, the projects
the
on the showcase were not representative of the cool stuff
yeah,
that a lot of people are doing. Is mostly pick and chosen by Webflow to kind of, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
um, it is not based on stats anymore. It's based, I think personally, is based purely based on clout now. If you see
yeah.
a project that a big company done, or if you see a project that sometimes the projects are kind of dumb. Like
This is random.
sometimes
Yeah, it's just random.
like it's
It's just
super random.
random.
Like there's a project with one like that's like number one on the Webflow showcase or Made in
Yeah,
Webflow now. When
yeah,
back in the day, like whenever I used to release the clonable, I always knew that was gonna go on the first
yeah,
page. Vim,
yeah.
you always knew your clonables are gonna go on the first page. But now,
And
even
and
when
the
your
thing is,
clonables have the highest stats of every single project on the first page, it doesn't show up.
no,
So it's a bit
no,
weird in
yeah.
that sense. And I think that's where it
And the thing
started.
Yeah, like that was so obvious to me, like I think 3-4 weeks ago. But before that, I think a lot of our experience on the Webflow showcase, I think we are we have quite a lot of experience. I think the whole of last year, I spent so much time on the showcase. I was looking at it every single day. We thought so much about clonables. We knew what worked, what doesn't work. And like we sort of had that understanding that I feel like not a lot of people did. And if I feel that change, there must be something that has changed, right? Last year, I think the showcase updated every day. Every day you refresh, you
Mhm.
get new projects. If your project is still getting enough likes and clone, it stays there. It stays number one. It stays
Mhm.
on the first few selections, and it was all merit based on the likes, based on the clones, and that's how a lot of people found a lot of jobs. People found each other. People found different opportunities. Client found talented people to work with, right? I felt that was the point of the showcase, a showcase to show the community's work and get the community represented. And when they made the Made in Webflow change, everything changed, because
Mhm.
now your likes and your clones don't make sense. They don't matter. People can say, oh, then why do you make them? You shouldn't be making them for the likes and the clonables, but the clone number. But then what's the point, right? If nobody's going to clone it, nobody's going to like it, why do we put all the
Mhm.
time and effort to do it? Why, we don't have to, right? So if the metrics exist and you don't use it, what's the point of the metric? So if you can go to
Mhm.
the Made in Webflow page right now, you see projects that have 5 likes, 10 likes on that page. I'm not taking anything away from those projects. Everybody deserves to be shown, but metric matters more. If there's a metric, why isn't it not used? Unless it's maybe like algorithmically chosen, that's fine. But these are all handpicked. Every Friday somebody on Webflow's team goes and chooses these projects and they go up on the page. That's how it looks like, that's how it feels. And if you're going to be doing that, might as well just get rid of the likes and the clones, right?
Mhm.
And
Because it seems like it
going
doesn't,
it
matter
doesn't
anymore.
matter.
And
It
another
doesn't
thing
matter.
is like,
Yeah.
I think with us, the way Made in Webflow works, the system around it is kind of very unfair to people like us. And by people like us, I mean we're not like the biggest freelance, we're not the biggest agencies in the
Yeah.
world. We're not like the ideal demographic for Webflow. So
Yeah.
the whole Made in Webflow system, I think the Webflow community as a whole is kind of systemized and made in a way to not, I wouldn't say make us fail, but definitely make us not shine as much as others.
Yeah.
um
And
so
and
it's kind of
let's
rigged in a way to be unfair towards us, I think, for sure.
yeah, like for example, I'm not taking anything away from people whose
100%,
work has
yeah.
been showcased on the showcase. That's great.
Hmm.
But for example, like I'm talking about the clonables, right? If you go to the Webflow showcase today, there's only like 3 projects that are clonable on there, and out of the 3, I genuinely didn't want to clone any of them. But I remember last year, there was a time where every day I was cloning something. I opened up one on the
Hmm.
page. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to see how they build it. Now I don't even click on the Made in Webflow page anymore. If you're going to be updating it once a week, and there's nothing changes for like an entire week, who is it for then? I'm
Hmm.
so confused on like what is the point of the showcase, and that's when this whole idea of like, okay, there's something changed here. Like, even if the clonable, like for example, if somebody's clonable get 200 clones, there's not a guarantee that's going to be on the page. And the fact that it's like that, I cannot recommend others to create clonables or even create one for ourselves, because
Hmm.
nobody's going to find it. We put so much time and effort on there, and if nobody finds it, we wasted our time, right? So that's when I think that was like the first point where I started to realize something has changed. But I think the next one is more of like, it's always been there, but we are sort of starting to see it being more obvious, which is
100%. I think this kind of leads to the next kind of topic we want to talk about, which is the problem with the problem with, I meant to say the Webflow community, my bad. But it's like it is, I think, ever since I've jumped on Twitter, and I think you as well, Vim.
it's a
Oh
typo.
man,
It's a
wait 1 second, Vim,
typo.
wait
That's
one
fine.
second. I think ever since me and Vim jumped on Twitter, I think that is when like we've kind of seen the full picture. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make this too controversial. I don't want to make this about us. I'm not asking for a pity party,
Yeah.
but it
It's
is
it's
kind of the reality. It's like
it is
whenever
more
you
of the
post
fact.
something on, yes, sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead, Vim.
again, like I think you brought up the right point. It's like we're not
Hmm.
saying because we are not represented or whatever,
Yeah.
I genuinely don't give a damn. This
Mm.
stuff doesn't make me money, so I don't really care. But what I am a bit saddened is that you don't see the quote unquote diversity slash representation outside of the US. So I know so many people in Asia, in Europe, in Australia do really good work,
Even
but
in
they
the
never get
UK, man.
mentioned. Yeah, like even in
Yeah.
the UK, we know so many people who do good work. They're good developers. They put clonables, but they don't get showcased. Nobody knows them. Nobody follows them. The community sort of revolves around the same 5-10 people on Twitter, which for me, once I started joining Twitter, that became a lot more obvious that it's like, why? Like I
Hmm.
couldn't understand like
Yeah,
what was
and
the
I
reason.
think I think it's like even the top 5 to 10 people in the Webflow community. There's a fair few of them where I know so many more people that quote unquote do a lot of they do better things than them. Like they're better at Webflow than them. They do a lot more cool stuff. Again, this is very controversial, but take this with a grain of salt. So it's like, yeah, man. It's like I don't think like Vim said. I don't think our kind of people like us get our fair share. I mean, I know there's a huge misconception and huge stereotype. Whenever you see a Indian freelancer or a Pakistani freelancer or a Bengali freelancer, you kind of automatically. I mean, it is a sad reality, but everyone automatically assumes that they're not as
Yeah,
good, as a person
yeah,
from the US, and that's a real shame. I know
yeah.
a lot of one person that comes into my mind is Harshit. He's from India. Does that for me? Whenever I look at Indian freelancer, I don't think automatically, oh, like he's a shit developer. You
Mm.
know, for example,
I mean,
Harshit, he's from India. He's a sick developer.
yeah,
And that can you can extrapolate that to not even just how good you are at Webflow is also like the stuff you do in the
it's
community.
it's like
Like,
I don't say like everybody is like against it, like they're
mhm,
consciously being lack of like they don't want diversity. I think they do want it, but I don't know. I just feel like a lot of it is centered around the US. If you represent
mhm,
a minority within the US, you sort of represent the world, which I don't think that's the case, because there's a difference between representing someone from Asia that than representing someone who's Asian American. Like
mhm.
I don't know whether it's controversial to say, but I just don't see that. You're telling me like nobody from Asia or Europe or Australia or Africa, for example, do anything cool in Webflow? Why don't we ever see
Exactly.
anything from
Mhm,
Asia or Africa or Europe or Australia? For
yeah.
example, like Refocus, right? It's a Germany-based Webflow agency. They were the first one to do the attribute solution, right? They were the first one to do back when FinSuite was still doing the code generator thing, the script writer. I remember Refocus was the first one to do the attributes version of it,
Mhm.
right? But nobody mentions it. They don't get mentioned anywhere.
Nobody.
They're big. I don't see that sort of following behind with Refocus. Yeah, they're not as active with, let's say, not they don't have a live stream. They don't. I don't know whether they do,
You
but
should.
yeah, but it's just like I just don't ever hear them saying like, oh, they were the first one to do it, or let's credit Refocus or nothing like that, right?
Yeah. In short, I think
Another
there's a lot of people in the industry that are not recognized for the stuff that they do.
yeah,
And in
yeah,
most cases, the people that are not recognized, it's hard to believe, but those people actually do a lot better work and better stuff than the
yeah,
people that are all recognized.
yeah. And the
So,
number of people that I see who are just starting out with Webflow, or they don't have enough work, but they have this. I I don't know where they get this sort of following or the sort of
clout,
support
pretty
that they
much.
get. Yeah, the sort of support they get without the work to back up for it. I just feel like I know so many people who have so much better work, but they just don't get half the amount of follows or support that this person does, right? Again, I'm not
Mhm.
comparing people. I'm not saying they are bad, or this all is against this whole conspiracy going on. But I think it's a very subconscious thing that just nobody addresses it, nobody talks about it. you know I do understand that compared to the US, not a lot of people outside of the US use Webflow, and more on that use Twitter, more on that are more vocal about what they do. But I'm sure there are, but they just don't get the limelight or the opportunity to break through, and I don't know why. Like, is that because there's a
Mhm.
region restriction, or something must be going on. The fact that I cannot
Mhm.
put a finger to it is just that's why I feel like it's, it's so unfair to not just us. Like for
Mhm.
me, again, going back to the point, like I don't think it's unfair to us, or we don't care. Like I think we are completely fine how it is right
Yeah.
now. But I can imagine how someone from Asia or Africa or some other place, that they're doing so much work, but they just don't get that follow, that support, that encouragement that the quote unquote
Mhm.
community has to do, right?
Mhm. I think what we're saying right now is quite watered down to what we actually want to say, but we don't really want to be too
Yeah,
controversial. The thing
yeah,
is, like, even for example, I want to address this as well, because I think it's really important to address. Webflow talks a lot about, they want to diversify and they want to, include people of diversity, people of different backgrounds. They want to showcase them and they want to give them opportunities to shine, whether that's through Webflow
yeah.
Awards or speaking at Webflow conference, all of that stuff, right? But, you know, let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen an Asian person, talking at a Webflow conference? How
Yeah.
many times have you seen an Asian person winning a Webflow award? Although
and
there's
and
so many good ones, I'm not. And
yeah,
listen, this is not me trying to say like we should be it or like us Asians should be it. It's not me
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
back
yeah.
myself. It's more I'm trying to give the opportunity to. There's like it's so unfair, man. Like, and
it, it
what I
it just
think is,
doesn't, as a
yeah,
global platform, I just don't feel it's global. Like I
yeah,
genuinely don't
and
feel
I
like.
think, yeah, 100%, man. I think also with Webflow when they say diversity, they do mean that, but what I think is they probably get one person, one or two people to kind of that are from a different ethnicity, whether that's black or Latino or Asian, and they says, "Oh, yeah, we just checked the diversity box. Let's move on." That's what it feels like to me. That's what I think it feels like to a lot of people from the community, and it kind of
Yeah,
is unfair. It doesn't give us people like Asians or people from Mexico or Africa the opportunity to shine. And I think it is quite unfair. Yes, like yes, you can say like I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, but yes, you can say the US. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more US content creators and whatnot. But at the same time, there is like there is quite a few like really good, people from India, or Africa, or Nigeria, whatever, like doing amazing stuff. Just one person. I'm not too sure if he's based in the US. I'm not really too sure, but his name is Diego. It's not Diego Diaz. It's another Diego. I forgot his name, but he does crazy work. Like his portfolio is sick, and I don't really see anyone like nominating him from my knowledge or from what I've seen so far. But I
yeah,
think he's had one of some of the best projects of the year. You know,
yeah,
Night Studios has been such a crazy project. So it's like there's so many people that do amazing work that don't really get recognized. And I'm not saying that Webflow is purposefully doing that to only boost up the US and like kind of suppress us. But is this,
yeah,
yeah, as Ben said, is I think is more subconscious than anything. And I think making this subconscious act that we're doing more conscious by speaking about it will really help. But yeah, man,
yeah,
that's like what I think the problem is with the community, man.
yeah, man. And I think the final nail to the coffin that really pissed me off yesterday was the whole Webflow Awards thing. Like the moment I saw
And that's
it,
what
I
we're
had
going
a
to be talking
feeling.
about next. Yeah.
Yeah, the moment I saw it, I think I told you, like within like a minute when the tweet went
Yeah.
live, I was like, look, I was like, it's gonna be the same 10 people gonna get tagged everywhere, and
Hmm.
whole and and of course the same 10 people that the Webflow community goes behind, that's the same people that gets nominated for these awards. Like I knew that was gonna happen. It's the same names you'll see everywhere, and there were
Hmm.
some names where I was just like, really,
Like who? Like
why?
what do you do?
Why?
you
Yeah,
know,
like what do you do? And then I looked at their work, I'm like, oh, like it's genuine. Again, I'm not
it's a
taking
bit
anything away
lackluster.
from them.
And we don't want to name drop anyone, but I think a lot
Yeah,
of people do know what we're talking about. Like we're not here to name drop and point fingers, but it is the case. Like if you see some of the people that were tagged, it's like, wait, I've never heard of it. And
what?
is again, we're not bashing them. We're not saying like they're bad, but it's like, come on, man. If you're gonna win an award, like at least like we have to kind of, you have to have some kind of clout.
Yeah, I think the Webflow Awards, when it came out yesterday, I already knew, like I already had an idea of what are the 10, 15 names I'm gonna be seeing again and again and again. And the fact that I saw the same names again sort of reinforced like the thing that I've already been thinking about for the last 2, 3 months. It's just that the community goes around the same 5-10 people, right? And it's all within the same bubble. Like I swear to God, there's this whole Webflow community which is just a bubble. Like it's just people within inside each other, right? And it just felt so weird that something like the award, which I think there's so many people that I can name drop right now who actually would, you won't
And
even
we
know,
will,
but
yeah,
it's so much. Yeah, we will. You won't even know. You have not heard of them, but they have the metrics to prove that they deserve an award. Like, and but the thing
yeah.
is, just because they are not active on Twitter, uh, or they're not within that bubble of the Webflow quote unquote community, they're not gonna get the award. Like that's when I felt like
Mhm.
something is up. Like that's, it just
Mhm.
felt unfair to me, right?
Yeah, maybe there might be something where it's like maybe we might be wrong. I don't think we are wrong, but maybe we might be wrong in a sense where it's like that's probably just maybe we might just be too naive. Maybe that's just how the world works, right? Like if you're not active, if you don't make enough noise, you just will be
Yeah,
left behind, even though you do good work. Maybe that might be the case. But at the
yeah,
same time, an argument to that is that there are a lot of people that do make a lot of noise and do great work that are not being recognized as well, like
yeah,
not being nominated as well. So it's like
yeah,
you know but yeah, I think this is a good kind of point to jump into what we think should be the real nominations of Webflow Awards. So we're going to run
yeah,
through all of the nominations. I'm just going to add Vim, if you can just share that
yeah.
screen.
I
Let me
will.
just add you
So
to it.
yeah, cool. And again, these are like what I think our picks are going to
Mhm.
be when we nominate. Um, so do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think for me, the number one community creator of the year is Timothy Riggs. Like it's funny that I actually don't see enough of him mentioned on Twitter.
Timothy Ricks is crazy. He does so much crazy work, like,
Yeah,
but nobody recognizes him, man. What the hell?
like it. I mean I wouldn't say nobody, but it just feels like
Mhm.
there's not the amount of following that I would akin to that sort of creator, because he puts
Mhm.
out so many cool creator of the creations on Webflow, like clonables. But yesterday on Twitter, I swear I don't even think I saw more than 2 people mentioned Timothy for community creator of the year, which
Mhm.
I don't understand why.
Maybe
Like,
because he's like inactive on Twitter or whatnot.
yeah,
But
yeah.
at the
So
same
it's sort
time,
of,
it's like, yeah, but that's not the problem with me. The problem with me is like, yes, Timothy, like maybe he's not is not the community's fault. Maybe it's not Webflow's fault. It's probably like a fault on Timothy where he's not active enough on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever, right? But then at
yeah,
the same time, Timothy, there's people that get mentioned more than Timothy when it's
yeah.
like,
For
wait,
that
what? Like
specific one as well.
for
Yeah,
that
we
specific
saw.
thing, and you never heard of them, So
I know,
it's like,
because
wait,
we both saw it like right before the call, and that's when we were like, you know what, let's record a video on this.
yeah,
But yeah,
because I
it's
think the
just,
whole point with awards is like you have to deserve it. You
yeah,
can't just give an award to the person that just does that just came in and whatever. So we're not bashing anyone, but at the
yeah,
same time we do believe that it has to be deserved, and
yeah,
it's not fair when like somebody to like Timothy Ricks who spends so much time and effort, creating all of this cool stuff for the community, but then somebody just pops along, and then just like
and
for
just because
some
they are
odd
a little bit
reason
more popular,
just
yeah,
exactly, just because like Webflow wants to use them to tick their diversity box, like
yeah,
just uses them to they just get nominated when it's like, wait, like you haven't done near as much, you haven't provided near as much value as Timothy has. And again, this
yeah,
might be very controversial, so again, like take this with a pinch of salt. I'm gonna be saying this like quite a lot,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think a lot of people agree. I mean, we're gonna ask in the comments. I think the comments of the video are gonna be interesting, but
Hopefully, yeah. I
yeah,
think
like
yeah, we can get to a bit later, but I think for
mhm,
this one, I've seen a few mentioned, but I think my pick would be Rayma. Like I think
100%
the amount of
Rayma.
stuff he does
Mhm.
for the community, and like he's such, if I've had to put a face on it, it's him. He's so supportive. He's, you know,
I mean,
yeah,
state of
I
flow, like just that alone has to.
yes, yeah. So I think that I just cannot think of anyone else. For me, Rising Star was the most controversial stuff. Uh,
110%.
because I saw a few names that I've never seen before, which is fine because they're Rising Star. But when I
Mhm.
looked at their work, or what is that represent behind that, there wasn't a star or anything that I was like, oh damn, that's cool. So I was
Mhm.
like, so where did that nomination come from? Was it because they are the newest person in your gang or in your bubble? And I was like, and I think Shays, you were like, who the hell is this?
Yeah, honestly, because it's like, bro, come on, man. Like, if you're gonna win an award, I've been in the game. I'm on Twitter, man. Like, so if I haven't heard of you on Twitter, come on, man. Like,
Yeah, like it's
I
just
don't
like,
know. And again, fair enough. I might just be oblivious, to your profile. But then I go on
yeah,
your
that's fine.
profile and I see your work, and it doesn't
Yeah,
match with your clout. It's like
yeah.
there is definitely a disconnect in
It
that.
it's definitely like then I felt like, wait, is it because this person was the new member? Like they were, just a bit more active on Twitter and they got a little bit of like, a known name, and boom, and they get this sort of clout behind their Rising Star nomination. Again, I
Mhm.
don't want to name drop anything, but it just felt
Yeah,
like, I think that was the final thing where it just sort of triggered me a little bit of
final
like,
straw.
come on, man. Now it's like, now you're
Yeah,
just taking a, now it's just a
yeah.
bit
Now you
unfair
just
already.
taking the Mickey like Ricky, man. Honestly, what the hell? But it's like I think like fair enough. Like if these people win, good for you, man. Like the game's the game. You can't
Yeah,
don't blame the
yeah,
player, blame the game. And that's
yeah,
what we're doing. We're not blaming anyone. You know, but yeah, I think in
yeah,
terms
man.
of the rising stars, I can name one right now. I think personally, I think I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Diego. I
Hmm.
found his name is Diego Oliveira. He's doing crazy work, man.
Is
Like
he is he on
I
Webflow?
think he should be. Yeah, if you search Naz Studios, he made that project, and like
Oh, him. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
doing. Bro, he is so good, man. Like you look at that project, bro, and I remember what his first project that kind of kicked him off. It was called Creator Led. It was like a VC company, and bro, he's banged out amazing project upon amazing project after that. So I think the Diego 100% deserves, like, at least he should be nominated. Like he should definitely have the chance to win the Rising Star Award.
yeah,
But bro, his projects are crazy.
yeah, yeah. I've
Really
seen
nice.
before. Yeah, and I
He does
think
crazy
for
work, and I
me,
think definitely, yeah.
yeah, for me, I think the clonable visual aesthetic and technical achievement. I don't think anybody has heard of Dhruv, but bro, like I think in this year
Mhm.
alone, he has put out so many clonables, and they're not even like
Bro,
small hits, man. These are like massive, massive hits. And all of this are
bro,
like this year, man.
these are crazy. Like,
And the
I
thing
remember
is, he's
Vim, you told me about him, and you were like, bro, I need to hire him, man. Because, bro, he's
yeah,
crazy, bro. And nobody, I don't know why nobody tags him or talks about him. Because I think
yeah,
undoubtedly, he deserves like at least one award from like any of
100%,
the
man.
clonables. Bro, he
Seriously,
rewrote
because
Wordle. He done so
yeah,
many
that's when
cool stuff.
I was like, holy shit, okay, this guy is like on another level.
And bro,
But the
it's
fact
not
that
like one clonable. He has so many.
so
Like it's
many, and
crazy.
the thing is, most of it was from this year. Like
Yeah.
that's the best part of it. Like almost pretty much everything you see is from this year alone. So if
Mhm.
and that's when I was like, if clonable visual aesthetic and technical achievement, it's just like, come on, man. Like just because he's not popular on Twitter, it's just yeah, he's not very active on Twitter, doesn't mean he doesn't deserve that award, right? Like I feel like
Mhm.
that's when I felt like, oh, this becomes like a popularity test. Like you want to see who knows you the most, and sort of, how
Mhm.
in school, if you want to be the class president or whatever, if you're the most popular kid, you get the votes, even
Yeah.
though you're like,
If you make the most
somebody
noise, pretty
else.
much.
Yeah, it's like stuff like this sort of pissed me off a lot more, because this guy is seriously must be nominated, which I will do. But the fact that not a lot of people are
Mhm.
gonna know about it and like sort of nominate as well, it just feels like a snub, honestly.
Mhm. 100%, man. I think
Yeah, man. It's just,
what
and
other
the thing is,
ones?
I think a lot of people sort of get confused with the community awards. Like, for example, I saw a lot of nominations for this categories that when I go down to the partner awards, I felt like the same person's gonna win the same thing here, because
Mhm.
I don't know. I just, again, going back to the point that I feel like it's just a bubble, like a Twitter bubble, with everybody knowing each other, everybody vote for each other. Everybody's like, oh, your work is great. No, your work is great. But they sort of
Mhm.
miss out the largest sphere where I am sure there's so many people that just don't get represented, man. It's just, I don't know. Like, it just, that was like, it was like a salt. I was very salty. I'll be very honest. I was very salty. Um,
Same.
And that's because, okay, let's go back to that you know are we selfish in saying this? A little bit, yeah, because I saw both of us put so much effort and time on all these clonables and tools and
Mm-hmm.
stuff that, though they're not like massive successes or like they're not as big as some of the big agencies do, it is still small steps, right? But the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I know it's not going to get half as much of the clout as somebody who's from the US, or they are within that bubble of like that community bubble, it sort of disheartens me a little bit. It's just like
100%, man.
it's
Yeah,
like
I
I don't
think
know, man. I don't know how to put a word to it.
yeah, even with TalkFlow as well, like we're doing. I wouldn't say, and again, I don't want this to be about us to say, "Oh, I'm
Yeah,
angry
yeah.
that I didn't win an award," But it's like, I, like, bro, we've been doing TalkFlow for like a year now. Like, I wouldn't say we've been the most consistent. I wouldn't say that our episodes are best out there, but come
Yeah.
on, man, like, you know. So it's like, it's also some of the stuff that we do that we feel like we don't really get recognized for it, and maybe that just might be us just being, too stuck up and saying, you know, maybe we just need like this could be like just a kick in our butt in our butt saying, you know what, you should do more and make more noise. Maybe that's what it is. But again, man, like is again, we don't want to make this episode about us because it's not. It's mostly for like there's so many other people out there, like
Yeah.
outside of TalkFlow, outside of us, outside of our agencies that like
There's
they're
there's
doing
a
so
whole
much great work and they're not getting recognized at all.
yeah, like
Um
like the
and
fact that I cannot understand that seriously there isn't anyone else in the whole continent of Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia
even
that
in the
come.
UK, man.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It just feels something like it's just not a global representation. I feel like everybody's sort of competing. Like the US is on its own sort of bubble, and
Mhm.
everybody's sort of like trying to get inside of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
100%. I
just
think I think the last point I want to make is I don't I'm this video might be a bit repetitive, but the last point I want to make is like we're not saying, that these people don't deserve it. It's like yes, there are people, for example, Drew out there, he's doing crazy clonables. I think he should win. Fair enough, he might not win because he's not famous enough or he doesn't have
mm,
much clout on Twitter. But that's fine. I'm not angry at that. Or I'm not pissed off about that. The thing that bothers me is that there's other people that are getting nominated, but they're nowhere near on the level of like Drew or somebody else. It's like
yeah,
that's the thing that's kind of bothering me. Is like
yeah, and I don't know
just
whether
because
like
you have,
are we alone in
I
feeling
don't
that,
know.
or
Yeah.
like do others feel the same, but they just don't want to say it or they don't know how to say it. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, for the
Honestly,
longest
I
time,
think the best
I didn't
analogy,
want to say it.
the best, yeah, I think the best analogy is like it feels like we're on a Zoom call with everyone in Webflow, and Webflow has put everyone who's not from the US on mute, and we literally can't speak. That's what it feels like, man. Honestly.
Yeah, and again, I still can't put a finger to it on like why, or maybe like I don't even know how we could solve it, right? But I just feel like there needs to be a more global representation. Like
Yeah,
if I understand that you're a US based company or like most of the clients are in the US, but a lot of people who use a product are outside of the US, right? So I don't know, man. The whole
who knows,
community
man.
thing is doesn't feel representation of at least who we are, right? Like I think that's why we want. I don't know what we can do about it. It's just something that I
I
feel
think
like we
it's
need
best
to
to
talk
just
about.
like express our opinions.
Yeah,
Is again just our opinion. If you agree, let us know. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's not like we hate anything.
yeah.
It's just like there's always things we can do better anyway. So
Maybe this is a wake up call for us to start doing better,
yeah,
but who knows?
therapy.
Cool. All right, now is the outro. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, this was episode 31. If you did enjoy it, okay, before I get into the outro, I mean, yes, it was a little bit controversial. We would love to know your guys' opinions, so make sure that you comment below. But I'm going to
Even
be
if you
posting about this on
disagree or
Twitter.
whatever, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If
even
you
if
agree or
yeah,
disagree,
yeah, I mean, everything for me, at least, I think with you as well, Vim, is like our whole point in this video. We said we are right, but we might be wrong.
be
So
wrong.
we
Yeah,
always, yeah, we might be wrong. So we're very open-minded. So if you do disagree, if you do agree, whatever, right, we would love to discuss it in the comments, or on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, if you did enjoy this one, Make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe, and turn on the bell notification button to not miss out on future uploads. All right, guys, see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.